All right, looks like we're right on time now. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us. My name is Matt Lacerdo. I am the Director of Affinity and Domestic Engagement here at Northeastern's Alumni Office. So we're so excited to have all of you join us for a very special presentation by our new Athletic Director. I'm still going to call you Coach Madigan, even though it's Athletic Director Madigan. But Jim Madigan is our Athletic Director here at Northeastern. And as many of us know, the ever-changing landscape of athletics have been moving back and forth, and that has still touched Northeastern in a couple of different ways too. Now, I know you don't want to really hear from me, but I'll just give you some quick tips on it. Chat-wise, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. We do keep everyone on mute because this presentation is being recorded, just so we don't have a stray cat or child in the background. We've had that in our early stages, so that's kind of how we do things on this. Otherwise, if you have any questions, make sure to put them in the chat and we will get them over to Jim Madigan for him to be able to answer for us. Also with that, if you haven't heard, we do have the live transcript going on. So if it's on your computer and you don't want that on, you're welcome to go down to the bottom of your screen and turn it off. Lastly, we do like to say the best way to watch this is in speaker mode. So if you go to the top right of your corner, there's a view. And you can put speaker mode, and then you'll just have Jim as the main person that will be speaking for you. With that, I'm going to pass it over to our main speaker, Jim Madigan. Feel free to take over.
Thank you very much, Matt, and thank you to everyone for joining us here today. And yesterday I had an opportunity to go through the RSVP attendance list, and I see so many groups of people who've touched me in so many different ways. When I was here as a student athlete, all the way through to my opportunity here now in the athletic director's role. You never want to, identify or bring up a name specifically because you always forget about others. But when I see Eugene Rapucci, who has been a close friend and a mentor for so many years, and then a David Caruso, who's on the call, who was our hockey manager back when I was the assistant coach. I think my daughter is going to be joining us, so it's a wide span, and I'm excited to be in front of all of you and just to chat. With so many of you, I've had personal relationships and have enjoyed those friendships. When Matt had asked me about this opportunity, anytime I can get out in front of our alumni and speak about athletics or speak about Northeastern, I take that opportunity. There's so many great things happening at the institution. I know many of you have been following it for many years, and under the leadership of President Aoun and the senior leadership team, this institution has moved significantly over the last 16 years. Not that we weren't doing things the right way before that, but we've taken on, taken the institution, the president has to greater heights, and I think we're all proud as alums, as members of the institution community of where the university is. And for me, athletics plays a significant role in the elevation of the institution. And when I was fortunate enough to take on the position of athletic director, it was June 17th, a day I'll always remember. It was my mom and dad's 60th wedding anniversary, and they were in Toronto, and Canada was in a lockdown mode. So my sisters and parents were celebrating their 60th, and I unfortunately wasn't able to get there. So we had a Zoom call, but so much happened that day on the 17th. And of course, as I mentioned, taking on my announcement of taking on as the athletic director's role. About my perspective, and in terms of taking on the athletic director's position, and how I've gone from managing one team to basically being responsible for 19. I think back and reflect back when I was the associate dean of the business school, the Moore McKim School of Business now, and working for Tom Moore, who many of you will know, and Tom was our dean. And I often said to Tom, you've done so much as a dean, and he was a dean over at Babson prior to coming to Northeastern. Actually, he was the interim dean of Northeastern before going to Babson, then returning to Northeastern as a dean of the Moore McKim School of Business. And his wife was a provost, and I said to him, do you have aspirations about being a provost? And his response back to me was, Jim, I've got arguably the largest ship in the fleet. I'm happy managing my ship. Why would I want to manage the entire fleet? And I think back then to a few years later, when I had the opportunity to be the athletic director, obviously this year, in June 17th, when I said to myself, here's a great opportunity, but I have the arguably the one or two of the largest ships in the fleet. And the fleet and our ship is moving, tacking in the right direction. Why do I want to manage the entire fleet? But there was that drive for me to wanting to take on this opportunity, an opportunity that I thought I could make a difference in moving our athletics department forward and in sharing my experiences with our student athletes and with our coaches, and tremendous experiences that I had here at Northeastern as a student athlete, as well as a coach and administrator at the university. And so that was my drive in wanting to manage the whole fleet. I wanted that challenge, and I was fortunate that the president and the leadership afforded me that opportunity. So a lot has happened since June 17th. And when I took on the position, you think you always know what an athletic director does, because I was on a senior leadership team in athletics when I was the manager, assistant AD for athletic development, and I'd been an administrator a long time that worked within the athletic department. But it's not until you put yourself in that seat, in the athletic director seat, you realize, you really understand what the daily challenges are and what the short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals are for the department, the vision that you have to have for the department. So I was fortunate when I moved into athletics development. I had a wonderful executive team that really pointed me in the right direction. Regina Sullivan, Marshall Foley, and then a senior team, and some are on the call here today, that really helped guide me in different areas in the business side of it with Dan Brem, in the compliance side of it, and the marketing side of it, the annual fund side, with Nicole Gerard and others who helped guide me, that allowed me to drive the direction I wanted to, take our department forward, and allowed us to come together and see what was the best direction for the department. So, as I said, very fortunate with them, for them and for their guidance in advice and counsel early on. And then when I took on the responsibility of athletic director, the national landscape was changing. So if I looked at three different buckets, you have the national landscape, you have the conference landscape, and you have your institution. And on the national landscape, there was a seismic shift just beginning, right? We had a new NCAA Constitution coming on board. The NCAA had realized, after losing so many court cases, one being the Alston court case, that in a push to basically decentralize the NCAA and to allow the individual divisions, Division I to manage Division I initiatives, Division II to manage Division II initiatives, and Division III to manage their own set of needs, and reorganize and restructure at every level. So that was started prior to me taking on board, but it really was picking up momentum to the point where, on January 20th, we voted to, embrace a brand new Division I Constitution for the NCAA. The first time that anything really is done in a major way since 1997. And it's now putting the representation, as I said, back into the individual division. So that was big, and understanding from a national landscape what that meant to Division I, and us being a Division I school. And we always hear about the Power Five institutions, conferences, and those institutions in the Power Five. And I think everyone, if you don't know, the Power Five are the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC, the Pac-10, and the Big 12. And, everyone understands because we see them on TV a lot, on football weekends in the fall, in the winter, the basketball. And, the mid-major institutions like Northeastern, how are we going to play? What type of role are we going to play in that large Division I restructure and reorganization? Are the distributions that come out of the basketball Division I championship still going to be the same? The amount of sports that you sponsor, are they still going to be the same in terms of distribution back to the institution? So a lot of questions that were coming about through the Division I, NCAA restructuring. Then you had name, image, and likeness, NIL, NIL for short, the acronym, where the student athletes were now going to be able to monetize themselves for the first time. that was significant. All the institutions had to come up with their own NIL policy. States were coming up, the individual states, and we had 30 states that came up and enacted their own NIL policy. That was changing the landscape. It was allowing student athletes, as I said, to monetize themselves, where they can brand themselves, through social media opportunities. They could do advertising. They can sell their autographs in autograph sessions. There was a wide breadth of opportunities for them, but it still had to fit within the institution. It still had to fit within the NCAA. So every institution went out and hired, a third party who was more adept in that space, and certainly we did in partnering with an industry leader on NIL, influencer, and to help guide us with our policy along with our legal counsel, and that had to be up on our website by July 1st. So thankfully, with our compliance office and the guidance and the counsel of our Office of General Counsel, we enacted our own NIL policy. But that was significant. And, the NCAA for a long period of time had wanted Congress to enact a policy that was spread throughout all 50 states. Congress, as you know, maybe last summer was probably busy with some other initiatives and other areas that needed their attention more than NCAA and NIL. So the individual states went about it themselves, and every institution did. So that was a learning process, and something that on a national landscape we had to wrap ourselves around. And it was about education, and education we had to provide to our student athletes on how they can monetize themselves, brand themselves. And let's face it, we're an entrepreneurial campus. So our students could take advantage of so many opportunities, from the educational side of it, as well as the athletic side of the house. We had the Alston case that the NCAA lost in court. The Alston case was about a student athlete who said that they weren't able to monetize themselves for educational opportunities. So the findings of the Alston case, and it was right up to the Supreme Court, I think it was Judge Kavanaugh that said that really took a major shot at the NCAA, that really made the NCAA think about, okay, we got to think about how we do business a little bit differently, and then thus the moving forward quicker with the NCAA new constitution. But the Alston case basically said that institutions can award and reward student athletes for educational academic opportunities and rewards. So without putting any dollar figures on it, the NCAA said, hey, if the institution wants to reward a student athlete for a 3.0 and give them $1,000, they can do it. If they can create their own levels of reward system for student athletes, we can reward them for computers, educational opportunities, but it was widespread, which when you don't define it in a tight way, it allows us as athletic directors and athletic departments to be really creative and entrepreneurial, which we're pretty good at, to be frank with you, particularly the big Power 5 institutions. So you had the national level, you had the new constitution, you had NIL, and you had the Alston case, which drove educational opportunities and rewards. Then at the conference level, I think when we saw a conference realignment, when we saw Oklahoma and Texas decide that they're going to move from the Big 12 to the SEC, and those are two powerful institutions, it made the rest of us think, wow, they're moving, and obviously it's driven by dollars and cents. They're moving to take advantage of greater opportunities. And we knew when that happened, there was going to be a significant trickle-down effect. Now the Pac-10, the Big 12 is now reaching to conferences below them, taking some institutions with them, and it's just layering itself down into the mid-major level. And through that, we lost an institution who had desires to take their football program from an FCS to an FBS, which is a larger, big-time football. And we saw James Madison leave the CAA and move on to onto the Big South. And so the trickle effect was now affecting us. And When I took the job back in June, there was already conversations taking place within the CAA at the presidential level and at the athletic directors level, and how we can strengthen the CAA. But it was really, it hit home then when Texas and Oklahoma left. And so it made us look at our conference, say, how can we strengthen it? How can we create some geographic, divisions, north, south, east, west? You see it in other conferences. You see it in the ACC, for example. You see it in the SEC. How can we drive our conference realignment, looking at, in Northeastern's case, and the CAA's, improving our basketball? How can we create geographic divisions, regional play that helps reduce some costs, and bring in institutions that have likeness to the rest of the membership? You saw the recent expansion of news in the CAA, where we're in the north, we brought on Stony Brook and Monmouth. Recently in the south, obviously talked about the departure of JMU, we brought on Hampton and North Carolina A&T. There is still opportunities for our league to take advantage. We're now at 13. Odd numbers usually don't work in conference play. So looking at bringing on a 14th member, and maybe taking on maybe 2 more if the right institutions are there to get us to 16. So certainly need to get to 14, and we're looking at that as an opportunity to strengthen our conference and then strengthen Northeastern. And if we got into divisional play and now we have more northern partners, it makes our geographic footprint a lot more desirable. Going to Stony Brook, going to Monmouth, we have Hofstra, the 2 Phillies, Drexel and Delaware, Towson, those are in Towson's more in the Mid-Atlantic, but it's more those opportunities we can get there a little bit easier too. So that was a big initiative that we were moving forward that was on my plate. And then just within the institution, for athletics, how can we enhance and elevate our athletic program within Northeastern? I've often said that there are so many windows of excellence into the university. There's the window of excellence for our student profile, our academic profile, the quality of students that we're attracting, the research being performed by our faculty, the teaching that's going on in our classroom by our faculty, the research centers that we have, and there's the cross collaboration, interdisciplinary education taking place in our brand new research building. Building 1 and building 2 will be coming on shortly. Experiential education is another window of excellence. We need athletics to be a window of excellence, and by and large it has been, but how can we elevate that? How can we get some of the more of our profile programs elevated, men's and women's basketball, men's and women's ice hockey, our crew programs that can bring in that visibility, that exposure, positive exposure that we want. So for me, it was elevating our athletic programs, not just those 6, but all our programs. And that was going to take on significant commitments by the institution, by the athletic department, and by our alumni, our friends and our alums. We needed to address our facility issues significantly. And when I came on board, I had messaged that to the president, to the leadership. The president and the leadership were tremendously supportive of that. And we're going through a significant exercise, I'll call it right now, that I believe will lead us to an opportunity shortly to make an announcement on some significant athletic facility improvements that will dramatically enhance the student athlete experience. And if I look at the core of what we're here to do in Northeastern athletics, and if I look at the core of what we do at Northeastern, it's to provide a quality student experience. In athletics, it's to provide enhanced student athlete experience while they're here for the 4 or 5 years. Because if we do the student athlete experience well, whether it be at the undergraduate level for our general students or at the undergraduate level for our students, if we do it well, then that 4-5-year experience is just not relegated to a 4-5-year experience. It will be a lifetime commitment and experience to the institution and connection back to the institution, where they can be involved and provide time, talent, and treasure back to the institution that strengthens the institution. So I look at it as a continuum, particularly in the student athletes where we've got 450 student athletes, where we can manage that process a little bit better than the thousands of graduate students that we have. So facility enhancements are key to student athlete experience. The facility enhancements allows our student athletes to develop all their skill set. And that's important to student athletes when they go to an institution. And as you know, there's a war for talent out there at the student athlete level, and facilities help drive that decision for student athletes to decide what school they're going to attend. Budget support is important. That's an area that from a department wide that we take upon ourselves. Certainly the institution has been more than supportive in that area, and we'll continue to drive that support. But how can we generate more revenue to the institution from ticket sales, from our CLC licensing, to corporate sponsorships, to special events, all that. And so we're doing that. That's a focus in trying to provide those additional resources that, again, help provide the student athlete experience. And then there's, fundraising. There's private philanthropy, which this institution has done tremendous amount of work in, and our alumni, friends, family, parents have significantly supported many initiatives here at the institution. And it's through private support that enhance the ability for private institutions to move the needle forward. And I've seen that in men's ice hockey significantly, where we endowed the hockey coach's position a few years ago in Fernie Flaman's name, someone who was really connected and meant a lot to the Northeastern hockey program, and seeing how those funds, now that are fully endowed, help support our hockey program. So philanthropy plays a significant role in providing for a quality student athlete experience. So when I look at those three buckets, that keeps me going each and every day here at Northeastern. My timing of jumping into this new opportunity, I was jumping into a frying pan for the most part right off the bat, which is the best way to learn. I had the support, as I said, of the senior leadership. I had the support and the guidance of our senior team here within athletics. And I think we've moved some of those, begin to move some of those initiatives forward. But there's a lot of work to be done here. And through it all, we're still working within COVID. That has been with us for the last, coming up on 2 years, March of 20. And all of the stress that places on our student athletes, mental stress, the physical stress, emotional stress that places on them. And as coaches and administrators, we've been very cognizant of that and making sure our student athletes are in the right spot. And it affects everyone different. It affects every team differently. But we've had to operate in the last 2 years within those parameters. So again, if we focus in on what our student athlete experience is all about, and if it's the core of what we want that to be, then we've got to make sure we're in tune to every single part of it, not just the academic part, not just the athlete part, but the emotional component of it and the mental component of it also. And through our approach here with sports performance here at the university, I think we're in tune to it, and we're there to help our student athletes so they have a tremendous student athlete experience. I mentioned, about conference realignment and talked about the Big Five, Power Five conference, how that drives a lot. College athletics is in a different spot now than it was, a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. Who would have ever thunk that the head football coach at Notre Dame, the head football coach at Oklahoma, would have left their institutions for money to go to another institution? Obviously, Coach Kelly to go from Notre Dame, the Golden Dome, and he's leaving to go to LSU. Who'd have thought that Oklahoma, and we know Coach Wilkinson, Coach Switzer, we can go on, but Coach Riley would have left Oklahoma to go to USC, excuse me. When you were at one of those institutions, you were there forever, as long as they kept you. And chances are those schools, because of the facilities and resources they had, they were being successful each and every year. But that landscape has changed, some of it driven by financial. Coaches can say whatever they want about, well, I'm looking for a different challenge. Eric Persican was at Notre Dame for a long time, had a lot of success. And that's speaking to an older audience right here. There was a lot of coaches at a lot of those schools that spent a lot of time and had success, but the dynamic has shifted, has changed. Some of it's driven by the dollars, some of it for other reasons, but it's changed college athletics. And, no more do we see it more than NIL and student athletes being able to monetize themselves. I think the quarterback, at Alabama, had $1 million of opportunities to start last year. Those rewards can be significant. And, the NCAA will tell you that from an enforcement perspective, that, you can't use that as an incentive enticement to have a student athlete go to your school. But let's face it, if you're going to Alabama for football and you're saying, because, hey, I want to be with Coach Saban, then, hey, you're going to Alabama. He's a good coach. But if you also know that at Alabama, even though they can't say, and they don't need to, but that they have all their student athletes are getting $5,000 a year at a minimum based on this one investor into the program on providing an opportunities and for advertising or whatnot, and it's there, then that's going to play a role in your decision to attend Alabama or another institution. And through all this on a national level that I haven't talked about was the transfer rule changed significantly, where we call it a transfer portal. Student athletes do not have to sit out in any sport now. After a year, they have the ability to transfer without sitting out to any institution that they want to. So it's basically college free agency. So it changes the dynamic significantly again, that student athletes, they can go to school X. They don't like school X after a year because they're not playing as much as they want to. They're not on specialty teams, whatever the reason, coach doesn't use me to my liking, or maybe, hey, I'm a good player, but there's a greater opportunity. And we saw that happen with one of our guards last year, right? Who was a sophomore, left Northeastern basketball and went to a Big Ten institution because someone told him that, hey, if you want to get to the pros, you got to leave Northeastern basketball to go play at a Big Ten institution. So kids are going to leave for different reasons. Now NIL comes into it. They might be able to monetize themselves a little bit more. They might be able to monetize themselves a little bit more on academic opportunities that are existing in there. Because even though these rules are in play, not every school is going to be able to take advantage of NIL or offer the opportunities to their student athletes for NIL or for the Alston, for the Alston case ruling. So there's a lot going on. The coaches have to balance an awful lot. And you've got to manage your roster now because college free agency is real and you'll see it. Last year, I think in men's basketball, there was 1,500 student athletes in the portal. That's significant. I could talk a little bit longer or I can field some questions. But college landscape is changing. Northeastern is fitting into those changes here athletically. The good news is that in all my time here at Northeastern Athletics, which dates back to 1981, Northeastern has always done athletics the right way. And when I say that, I mean with integrity, with morals, with values. And don't get me wrong, every leader on this institution that I've been front and center with, President Ryder, President Curry, President Freeland, President Aoun, every one of them wants to win. And President Aoun is as competitive as they are out there. Winning is important to Northeastern, extremely important, but we're going to do it the right way. We are never going to sacrifice our values, our morals, our ideals, and putting athletics and sacrificing what we stand for on the academic front or the morality page for wins. That's just not who we are. That's a good thing that we have those values in place with our leadership. And I'm excited to be in this new role because we've got a leader who is a visionary and who was investing in Northeastern athletics and President Aoun. And, partly what drives me each and every day is our student athletes and making sure that we can provide the resources to our student athletes and our coaches for them to be successful. That drives me every day. I want to be able to put those student athletes and the coaches in a position to be successful. And I also want to make sure the gentleman who put me in the seat, President Aoun, that I live up to what his expectations are, because he's provided me a tremendous opportunity that I want to repay the institution, making sure we leave this department in a better spot than we got it whenever that time comes. And as I said, I'm fortunate that we've got the leadership that allows us to move forward each and every day.
Great. Thank you so much, Jim. We do have actually several questions in the chat. So I think some of you've already kind of touched upon. There was one question about the transfer portal, but I think you kind of covered a lot of that. I think along with that, the next one it's kind of a little bit elaborating on some of the stuff that you were talking about with the fundraising. But are there any plans to renovate, update Matthews Arena's lobby and public-facing arenas to better celebrate the recent team and individual success of the men's and women's hockey teams and the men's and women's basketball teams?
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if I had someone plant that question, but I'm glad they asked it, Matt. If you look at our facilities in athletics, there's a need to improve them at Matthews, at Cabot, Parsons, Dedham. The boathouse is in tremendous shape, and we did some upgrades there. Not that we can't touch a couple of things. And in the conversation I was able to have with the leadership early on when I was back before taking the position, I think we're all on the same page that that's an area that we need to move forward. And you start with one facility and you build momentum and you move forward. So there are plans to address and enhance our men's and women's basketball programs and men's and women's ice hockey programs, as well as our club sport opportunities. And how can we do all that, in one large project? And we're looking at something significantly down at Matthews Arena. For those that know the arena, on the back of the arena well, there's a parking lot there that would, that's a buildable lot that we can look at, and exploring options there that can back up to the back of the arena that can provide more modern day amenities for men's and women's ice hockey. And obviously in that lot, if we can do something in that facility, in that space that allows to significantly improve men's and women's basketball with the amenities that they need to compete on a day-to-day basis. If you look at Cabot, it was built in 1954, 55. The gym, it's okay to play some games, but we need more amenities for the basketball programs. And by that, I mean locker rooms, lounge rooms. You need hydrotherapy, sports performance areas, strength and conditioning, trainer's room, hydrotherapy is hot tub, cold tubs, a lot of those amenities that all of our peers have. That's standard now. And we need to get to that level where we have those facilities, because when you have facilities like that, student athletes will come to you, and what they want to know is that they're going to be developed when they're here at Northeastern. Developed athletically is on the ice, but also means having the amenities that you can develop off ice. Strength and conditioning being one, athletic trainer that can help you is another area. Video rooms that everyone goes, there's an educational component from the athletic side that support. So we're having some significant conversations in that space that hopefully shortly we can get out in front to the general audience and let them know what our plans are. But the leadership is tremendously committed to making this happen.
The next question that's in the chat for you is, COVID has interrupted a lot of potential non-conference scheduling. However, will there be an opportunity in the future for having a Big Ten weekend where men's and or women's basketball and hockey can play Big Ten teams or other power conference teams for those sports?
Yeah, no, great question, and something that we want to continue elevating our program. So I was fortunate to be the hockey coach, and we took advantage of that. And Athletic Director Roby, through his relationship at the time with the athletic director at Michigan State, opened that opportunity where men's hockey, women's basketball, men's basketball played a triple header, home and away. And they were tremendous opportunities for us. And let's face it, I think people love seeing Tom Izzo, Michigan State, come into Matthews Arena. Right? I did. I know that. I'm sure they enjoyed watching the women's team play Michigan State, but to see Izzo. And then when we went to Michigan State, we played women's basketball played, then we played hockey, and everything was separated out. 12 o'clock game, 3 o'clock game, and a 7 o'clock game. And our whole hockey team went and cheered on our Huskies at Michigan State's basketball, and Coach Cohen and his team beat Michigan State. So we are looking at those opportunities. It has to align really well. One thing that hurts us sometimes is that Coach Cohen's teams, I know we might not be there right now, but Coach Cohen's teams have been very good. The teams don't necessarily want to play him because it might be a loss for them on their schedule. So those Big Ten schools are a little bit selective at times. But where we can get the fit we'd like to include women's ice hockey in that too, where we can get the fit, where we can get all 4 or 3 of the 4 to play, we want to do that. We can do that with Michigan. We can do that with Wisconsin. We can do that with Minnesota, Penn State. We can do that. We can't do that with some of the other programs like Indiana or Illinois or whatnot, Northwestern. So we are looking at that. And just to branch out from that, we also are looking at unique opportunities for our basketball, men's and women's basketball, men's and women's ice hockey team to play. This year our men's basketball team was in St. Thomas, the Virgin Islands, and played and did very well. We lost in the championship game to Colorado State. We obviously play every year at the Beanpot. The men's team does in the Boston Garden. So that's a unique venue. We're looking at different venues, looking at seeing with men's basketball if we get into a tournament next year in London. That would work really well because we have the new College of Humanities right there in London. And so we'd be bringing Northeastern to Northeastern. That's a win-win for us. Looking at opportunities, always looking to get into New York, whether it be the new building that they just built where the Islanders play or Madison Square Garden and playing some teams there. We've taken our hockey team to, we've taken them before to other opportunities. Fenway Park we played at. There are hockey tournaments in Vegas and Nashville and other places that we're looking at venues. So, and then seeing where we can bring our women's basketball team and our women's ice hockey team too. So I'm hoping that answers. We're looking at the Big Ten opportunities as well as other unique opportunities for our student athletes to experience different venues.
Great, thank you so much, Jim. The next question is just, has there been any discussion about adding men's and women's varsity lacrosse?
There's discussion about that each and every month. I think I field an inquiry on it, and to be honest, it makes sense. Here in the Northeast and at Northeastern, it makes sense because there's lacrosse that's played here. There's student athletes who play in the Northeast region. We've got a tremendous successful men's and women's club lacrosse programs that do a tremendous job. So we've had a little bit of a history of success within lacrosse here with our club program. And so we're always looking at opportunities on where we can add sports. But before we do that, I want to always make sure from an athletic director's perspective that we're supporting our programs to the levels that they all need to be supported right now. One of our challenges, and I think people know if you know our facilities, is space. We're at Parsons Field. We play men's and women's soccer. We play baseball there. And so if we added lacrosse, that's an opportunity where they would go there, but now we're putting more demand stress on that facility. So I want to make sure that we can accommodate all the teams, that are going to be playing at these facilities. So you're looking at a lot of different, factors in there. Financial is always a factor, but for me, it's focusing in on the facilities and can we provide that quality student athlete experience to men's and women's lacrosse if we took it on, because if we can't do it the right way, it doesn't make sense to do it at all. So always looking at opportunities for different sports, adding different sports. And as we have new members coming into the CAA, there is a lacrosse league. We have some affiliates in our conference, but some of those other programs are Monmouth, they're bringing in lacrosse and Stony Brook. So, there could be some opportunities. So we're, as I said, always examining it and making sure that when we do it, if we do it, that we can, make sure that the student athlete experience is going to be a quality one.
Great. I think the next question is how has the recruiting process changed for incoming student athletes? And this says for basketball, but I would kind of open up to all recruiting for all the different sports as well.
Yeah, so you've got your traditional incoming freshmen that will come in as as an 18, 19, or 20-year-old, depending on the sport that they're being recruited in, and that experience is similar. Even with the new Constitution, but it's not, in the sense that NIL will play a role depending on the sport, depending on the region that you live in. So student athletes are looking at, before they were looking at the academics should always be first and foremost. They're looking, the major and can they earn a skill set, not just a degree, but a skill set. When they select that institution, they're obviously looking at the region that school is located in, and they're looking from an athletic perspective at the program, success of the program, the coaching staff. Is this a coaching staff that can help me, make me better, develop me? And they're looking at facilities because they look at they tie facilities into development. Great facilities for them equal development. So those have been measurements that student athletes are looking at. Now they're looking at NIL, is this a school where I can monetize myself? Is this a sport that I can monetize myself? Do they have existing relationships? Is there a history of this last year of student athletes being able to take advantage of NIL? What do they do on the Alston case? Do they reward? Do they have academic awards in place? At this institution, the state of Alabama, the governor of Alabama is just changing their NIL laws basically so that the two big programs in that state, Alabama, Auburn, aren't going to be a disadvantage to their neighbor in Georgia. So that's how, those initiatives are real. And, in the Northeastern might not be as prevalent, but it's, student athletes are going to look through that lens. So, the educational component of NIL is important, and then the opportunities for hopefully the student athletes can take advantage of opportunities. Hey, we've got some international student athletes who, because of their success in their sport, cannot take advantage of NIL opportunities because they don't have a visa to work in this country. So, there's a lot of parameters that you have to understand. They can certainly go to their home country, take money and advertise and do whatever it is in their home country, but not in this country because of the federal laws. So that's the educational component that we have to be mindful of, making sure that we're providing our student athletes and that they don't ruin their eligibility. So from the recruiting, that's the freshman experience. And then, as I said, the recruiting process with the portal has opened itself up significantly. Student athletes are leaving after their freshman year, their sophomore year, some after their junior year. Some student athletes, because of summer school opportunities to advance themselves in school, will graduate in 3 years from an institution. And let's face it, Northeastern accepts a lot of student athletes who have advanced credit and that are given advanced credit when they come to Northeastern. So if they have advanced credit plus with some summer school exposure, they could graduate here in 3 years from Northeastern, and that means they're grad transfer. That means, again, they can transfer to wherever they want to transfer to and be automatically eligible. They can stay within the institution or they can use their grad transfer rule. So again, a new rule in the mix, but a lot of freedom and movement, flexibility for the student athlete. And that's at the core of what the NCAA wants to do. They want to provide the flexibility of student athlete so that that student athlete can drive their student athlete experience. But it makes it a lot harder for coaches to build culture, makes it a lot harder for them to have continuity, consistency, and success.
Great. And I think this is a really great question for you, Jim, which is looking to the future. Is there a wish list that you wish you could realize for the athletic department during your tenure?
So I said to the department when I first took the job, and that I would look at my tenure here at Northeastern as the athletic director as being unsuccessful if I failed to move our athletic facility enhancements forward, and to be able to position our athletic department to receive better facilities. I would view that as being unsuccessful. And I said that, and I meant it, because I think that's where we need to grow as a department for us to have more competitive, sustained success. And I said it to the department. I'll be 60 in August. I've been fortunate to be mentored and have many different roles here at the institution. And many of those people are still here at the school. And if I've had any success in those roles, it's because of those folks. But I didn't want what I view as my last opportunity here at the university to be unsuccessful. And I don't plan for it to be unsuccessful. So I'm all in whatever we can do to enhance our facilities for our student athletes, for our coaches, and for our alumni to come and be a part of successful and beautiful facilities, and to know that, we've made a huge, significant commitment to our student athletes for competitive success. And that in turn will allow us, and hopefully our alumni and family and friends and parents, to also invest in the institution and in these facility enhancements, so that it's a true partnership between the institution and our wonderful alumni who have always have always answered the question and answered the opportunity to assist athletics in our university. And so that's my goal, our goal.
The next question that comes in is, and this kind of ties into with like the changing aspect of student athletes, is as the ability to make money for student athletes will grow, do you see fewer scholarships being offered at some point?
Yeah, that is a good question. Short term, I don't. And, the ability for student athletes to monetize themselves is going to be different at schools in the ACC, the Pac-10, SEC, than it's going to be in some of the mid-major, like the CAA schools and Northeastern being part of that. So, we want our student athletes to be able to take advantage of any opportunity that they can, and we're here to help them do that. But I don't see it affecting our reducing scholarships at the university level at this point. The university has made a significant commitment to athletics and to our student athletes, and for the most part, fully funding every one of our sports that allows us to have competitive success. I don't take that lightly. Not every institution does that. I know in the level that we play, they do, but not everyone does. And that's a significant commitment by the institution. So, where we can maybe endow some scholarships down the road, that might be an opportunity, but the university has made that commitment to continue fully funding our programs for scholarships.
Great. One of the other questions is that's in the chat was, where do you see athletics in the institution of Northeastern? I think you kind of just touched upon it, and that, the presidents have all found them to be really great and part of it, want to win. But how do you see it being part of the fabric of the institution and emphasizing the student experience as well?
Yeah, as I mentioned, I think we're doing it really well now. And for me, with our student athletes is trying to, with the demands on student athletes schedule, and believe me, they're significant, the demands. And I don't realize if everyone has that full understanding and breadth of the commitment it takes to be a Division I student athlete in all our sports here at Northeastern. And with that commitment, they're not able to take advantage of certain opportunities here that our general students are able to take advantage. Dialogues, co-op abroad, I can go on. And so for me, I always want to make sure that I'm mindful of our student athletes, our students first, and where can we provide, if it can't be the full experience, but a modified experience, for our student athletes to take advantage of that is offered to all our students. And the biggest thing is that our student athletes are part of the institution and not a part of it. So it's so important that all our student athletes, and I message this all the time, realize, hey, in some ways you're special. You've been given a God-given talent. You got a God-given talent that you're here to hone, and we're here to help you hone, but you're not better. You've got a God-given talent, but that doesn't mean to say that you have the ability to do things that other people don't. And so I want to make sure that by messaging our student athletes that they also know that they're part of the institution and that they can take advantage of everything that Northeastern has to offer. So we do that in some of our sports. We do that in some of our sports who only play, say, in a fall season or a spring season. We have sports that carry both fall and spring. Makes it a little more difficult, but I think it's important that our student athletes have a full experience of what our general students have. And so that's part of where my mindset is. And experiential education is part of that. Dialogues is part of that. Abroad is part of that. So they have that comprehensive understanding, knowledge, and experience of what the university has. But that's why it's important when we have our international trips, and every program does that we have that global experience. That's important. And it might only be a week, but when we go to Northern Ireland and we spend 7 days in Northern Ireland, learn a lot more about the troubles of Northern Ireland and Ireland and British and Northern Ireland, in Ireland, that's, our kids are learning. There's an educational component. That's important. And then they see groups of people in Northern Ireland trying to work together that have not always had that same common theme. And so those are opportunities that our kids treasure and cherish when they went there. Winning is nice. We won the last time, but the experience was tremendous.
Our next questions in the chat is, what kind of NIL opportunities are our athletes seeing so far? Are universities permitted to help within the Ncaa rules?
So we haven't seen a lot of NIL opportunities here on this campus. There's been opportunities for our kids. Social media is one. If you're an influencer on social media, companies will hire you in that space. So that's an opportunity where a student athlete can monetize themselves if they have a lot of followers. If a company wanted to come in and say, hey, we want to do an autograph session and we want to do it in Matthews Arena lobby, can we have your team provide autograph sessions, and can we pay them $250 each? We could do that. Where the university in that case would partner with the company and our students is that it's our venue, right? So most venues have a rental component to it, right? So they would need the university's approval to do it in the lobby. Now, if they want to do it at their company or they want to do it in a mall, if a company, Simon Mall, said I want to bring in some 25 of your student athletes and do an autograph session, then they can do that. We're here to make sure we can protect them from an eligibility perspective and from the law, but also to help them and guide them on what they can and can't do. We're not going to, an example is if we're a school that we're an Under Armour school. We have a university athletic contract with Under Armour. They provide us our apparel. We're not going to have a student athlete, take on an opportunity to rep another another apparel company. Just doesn't make sense. I don't know if right now, if we'd want our student athletes representing, a cannabis, firm right now. So those are things that we'll work through when a student athlete brings us an opportunity, or through influencer brings an opportunity, and then we'll help navigate for them. So a lot of our student athletes haven't taken advantage of the opportunities. We have a couple of international students that have, and it's probably going to happen more when they go back to the country because they can't do it within this country. I think our student athletes will get more and more opportunities as NIL spreads itself out a little bit more.
All right, it looks like our last question in the chat here is, with a large part of the NCAA realignment relating to media rights at the conference level, what are the things that are important to Hockey East and the CAA in the future on their sports broadcasts to make them accessible to fans, and how will our NESN agreement from the previous administration play into that?
Yeah, very good question. And I've got to jump on a CAA conference call in 3 minutes, so I might not give it its full response. That was an area when I came on board that I had to get up to speed on quickly. So media rights, because our rights were expiring this year with Hockey East. We have 2 years left with our media rights with the CAA and our partner Flow Sports. We're all looking at those opportunities, and to see, obviously driven by dollars, exposure, visibility. How can we enhance the CAA image through our media partner? How can we bring in, how can we monetize it, right? Those are the two areas, two of the major areas that we're looking for. And at Northeastern, it's important in all our CAA sports as well as in Hockey East that we maintain a relationship with NESN, who we do have a relationship with, and then we have carve-outs with. So we want, to be honest, we want to play in both spaces. We want to play in the space with the conference, with our media rights and whoever our partner is. Right now, it's Flow Sports, and then Hockey East is going through the exercise right now and through the process on where we're going to go. But from a Hockey East perspective, it certainly makes sense with NESN. NESN grew up with Hockey East in 1984, 84, 85. I know it because that was my senior year. Sean McDonough who's a close friend, was the voice, and whose dad was a Northeastern alum, and Will was the play-by-play guy for NESN. So NESN partnered with Hockey East, with the Bruins, with the Red Sox, as we all remember back in 84, 85. And so NESN in Hockey East touches every single one of the schools. NESN doesn't touch every single of the CA schools, but it's important for us. We were on NESN last night in basketball. We'll be on NESN again. I think it's, I'm not sure if it's basketball. I know CBS Sports is on Saturday for basketball, men's basketball. I think NESN has our Thursday broadcast again. So we want to play in both spaces, knowing that there's going to have to be some flexibility, and we have carve-outs. But NESN is a tremendous partner with Northeastern, and we want to continue that friendship and relationship and commitment to them. And they've been great with us, and we want to continue moving forward. So I hope that answers. We want to play in both spaces. That helps Northeastern athletics as well as the conferences that we're part of.
Great. I think we're right at time, Jim. So thank you so much for everything. I don't know if you had any final last words or.
Just, it was so good to see so many people on the call and so many friends. I know I identified a couple of them, but I know there's many more. I'm the fortunate one. I'm the alum. We're all alums. I'm the fortunate one because I got to spend 45 years here at Northeastern. Gene Rapucci comes close. Maybe he surpasses me because he went from undergrad to here. He's probably laughing right now. But I'm the most fortunate alum because I've been mentored and been able to be part of the institution for a long time. I appreciate everyone's time here today, your commitment to Northeastern athletics, to the institution. There's great opportunities ahead. Stay tuned, coming soon. If it's a movie trailer, it's coming soon. And we're going to reach out to you because your support in past years has helped us reach our goals and aspirations, and your continued support are going to allow us to continue to reach greater levels and heights for our athletic department. Have a great day, everyone.
Great. Thank you so much, Jim. And just for everyone that's on the call, we will be having a survey go out sometime tomorrow. And if you want to revisit anything, if you missed something during the call, this will be up on our YouTube channel early next week. And as always, as I like to say, if you really enjoyed athletics, make sure to keep them in your philanthropic gifts and help donate to help support the different teams and athletes that are here at Northeastern. So thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day.